Okay, here we're going to show an episode of On Point EDC. Today I have a really awesome review for you guys from the brand Arno Bernard Knives. A little about them. These are made in South Africa, and essentially they're a premium knife maker offering freehand hollow ground blades that are heat treated and polished to ensure absolute quality. They produce near custom knives essentially at high-end production prices. Now, in terms of the type of knife, this is a titanium frame lock folding knife. A little bit about the history around there. Of course, they're going to be using that Chris Reeve style Reeve integral lock, which is an evolution of the Walker liner lock, essentially using a titanium handle with an integrated frame lock. In terms of the model, this is the iMamba, and it is optioned out pretty beautifully with that skeletonized fuller, as well as it being a non-flipper with the Elforyn inlays. Also, we have this spec'd out to have the cage ceramic bearings versus the phosphor bronze washer option. Now, you can get these for $5.59 direct from the brand, or you can get them for $4.50 if you don't want to get any inlays, if you want to just get full solid titanium. Now, these are pretty much a luxury product, guys. These are fantastic. This is not what I recommend. This is a connoisseur's piece. This is not something, even if you have the money to buy it, you really won't be able to fully understand or appreciate the quality unless you've handled other high-end knives. So that's the warning I will put out there for anybody that's watching this video, and I'll do my best to really get into the details in terms of what makes this thing so special. So with that said, let's go ahead, zoom the camera out, get this piece in hand, and take a closer look. Okay, guys, now before we dive in, quick customary wristwatch check. I do have on this awesome Neo Vintage Seiko diver, and this is why I chose to wear this with this piece. Not just because it has that cool kind of creamy dial, which goes well with this kind of ivory tone inlay, and it's also titanium, which is cool, but the main thing is this is a connoisseur's choice. This is not, you know, you don't just buy this watch because you just like the looks of it. This is one that you find it's an heirloom piece. You hunt for it, you keep it, you love it, you pass it down, and it's just one of those things. And this is a pretty rare piece. I will leave a link at the end of the video if you want to click onto the dedicated review for this. But let's go ahead and get into this beautiful knife from Arno Bernard. Guys, ho 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 ho. Ah! Yes, this thing is beautiful. So yeah, not the cheapest, but it's far from the most expensive. I'm actually pretty blown away with the price after handling it in person. The blade steel that they use on this one is going to be Damas steel. It's not, you know, of course, the Damascus style, but it's RWL34, which is a stainless steel that they heat treat to 59 Rockwell. It's hollow ground and polished. It has a beautiful drop point, and that polish, guys, look at that polish over the satin is just extremely special. Wow, that hollow grind, this thing, it's just epic. And if you don't know much about RWL34, it's just a well-balanced blade steel, very comparable to something like a CPM 154, and you guys can see that it takes a beautiful polish in terms of the fit and the finish, even down to the jimping here, guys. Let's get that into focus there. Check out the facets, the beveling work, just whew. And that's on the blade. Of course, you do have a nice rounded spine there, and even when we get into this skeletonized fuller, guys, this is nice. Like, it's actually nice to the touch. Like, you're not going to tear up your nail opening this knife because they've broken in those edges, and you know, you could easily leave something like that sharp. You know, it is a knife, right? So there's a lot of brands that will leave those types of things unfortunately quite sharp to the touch, but here the only things that are sharp are the parts that are meant to be, which is going to be this beautiful, whew, look at that slicey blade with a great amount of belly. Now, This does have a titanium matte blasted handle, and it has these fantastic off-white Elforyn inlays, which are really meant to be kind of a synthetic ivory. So in terms of if you like that ivory aesthetic, it's not a pure white, but I wouldn't even call it creamy. It's definitely more of just an ivory tone, right? And I think it does that really well. I mean, even if you compare it to this dial, I mean, the dial here is definitely more of a kind of creamy golden tone versus here is going to be more of just an off-white kind of ivory. But one thing I didn't expect was how beautifully polished this Elforyn is, guys. Look at that. It's almost like a piano key in terms of that finish. Look at the blade. My gosh, that is gorgeous. So yeah, this thing is... Look at the bevels, guys. Just it has it all. So we'll try to get to it all. In terms of the overall length here, just under 8 inches at 7.9 inches. So this is definitely a full size knife. 7.9, so just under 8 inches. The blade length itself is going to be 3.4, so just under 3.5 inches there. Close length is going to be 4.1, and then in terms of the weight, it's going to be 4.3 ounces. So not super lightweight, but definitely far from heavy and, you know, pulling down your pocket. In hand ergonomics, this thing fits beautifully. It fills the hand fantastic, and that's one of the nice things about a full-size knife. I typically carry slightly smaller, more EDC-able, kind of within that 7-inch range, 3-inch blade, 4-inch handle. This is slightly bigger than that, but oh man, it makes a case for a full-size knife in terms of just how much better and how much more solid and capable this feels in hand versus a smaller knife. If they made a smaller variation of this, I'd be all for it. You know, they probably even make them cost a little bit less too. So that would be really cool. Arno Bernard, if you're listening, a smaller version would be cool. But this thing is so amazing and perfect. I mean, I understand why you just keep making more of these. In terms of the ergonomics, yeah, it just feels really great. Great beveling, guys. Let's look at some of the details here. Just really close in on the beveling around this titanium. The hardware at the pivot. This milled pocket clip, beautifully formed, doesn't look aftermarket. It's just, you know, straight from the factory like that. Even the fine beveling on the underside of the knife, guys. Look at that. I mean, this beveling is on par with something you would see on a luxury watch. So, I mean, it's that good. And that jimping with just a slight ramp is really, really nice in terms of if you really want to choke up on the blade, right? Get into some very specific cutting tasks or, you know, EDC grips or whatever. There's so many different grips. There are, you know, depending on what you're trying to do with the knife, and there's just, you know, this feels great. There's really no hot spots in any one of those different ones. Now, the action is very, very smooth. Of course, this one does run on bearings, so it's going to be a little bit more drop shutty than if it was on the washers, but it's still extremely smooth. The tolerances are insane. Like, normally bearings, they're fast, but they don't necessarily feel super smooth, at least not as smooth as a really nice set of washers. But something about these, I don't know what they do. I mean, they're quite thick, the washers that they use. Let's just say the cage ceramic bearings that they used. The cages on there here are quite thick. So maybe that's it. Maybe they're just, I think they're using skiffs also. So that's just, you know, you're just choosing good products. But man, this thing is really, really nice. Also, you're going to be getting a stainless steel lock bar insert. Of course, one thing to note, guys, this is not the flipper version. It would be a lot easier and probably more reliable to fidget with, but you know, I'm definitely getting more of the hang of that rear Spidey flick. You're gonna have a nice stainless steel lock bar insert there, so you're gonna have, of course, you don't have to worry about them carburizing this lock bar, and they're also gonna have a replaceable interface, which is great. So you can see that little screw there essentially is going to be holding in a steel insert that is going to be interfacing with the actual blade there. holding it in place. And it's also used as an over travel stop. You can see the little tab that comes out that'll essentially stop you from over torquing this lock while you open the knife. So very, very nice, very, very thoughtful. In pocket, guys. Definitely a full-sized knife, but the nice thing is it has a very flat footprint, guys. This is relatively thin. Again, lays very flat, very organic in terms of the shape. So when you're reaching into your pocket, you don't have to worry about, which happens, guys. As cool as knives can look, when you get into the ergonomics of it, sometimes you're reaching down in your pocket to grab your keys or whatever, and your hand can get kind of bruised up and banged up. Just, if there's a hot spot, you don't want that, right? Especially for a functional tool. And yeah, to a certain extent, this is going to be a piece of pocket candy. But yeah, this thing doesn't, there's no issues whatsoever. This is rides great in the pocket, and you can see it has that nice milled clip, which is going to be relatively deep. You're only going to have about that much peeking out of your pocket. And of course you do have that nice leather, supplied, lanyard, which is great. It's very minimalist, and it just feels good. And I'm a big lanyard guy, so I don't mind it at all. Now, in terms of model variants, definitely check the site links for options and availability on this, guys. And then in terms of comparable options, yeah, I mean, although there are some, people that might be watching this getting some sticker shock, saying, "Oh man, $450 for a knife that I haven't really heard of," or depending on how you spec it out, it could be $559. Not made in the U.S., but that doesn't ensure quality. I mean, Benchmades are made in the U.S. I love Benchmade, but they're not necessarily known for their amazing QC. Yeah, I mean, if you think about it, though, if you're a seasoned collector, you're going to know that even high-end Chinese-produced knives are selling at very high premiums. I mean, I don't want to necessarily give too many examples, but yeah, I mean, if you have a knife, it doesn't mean that it's not necessarily like not good quality. I mean, for me, some of the best OEMs are out of China, like Reate. They make some of the best knives out there in terms of high production, full production pieces. So yeah, if you compare this to like a Reate folder, let's say, you're getting now this hand-worked piece that actually does offer that extra value per dollar versus something to where, okay, yeah, it's built to a high tolerance, this and that, and you're paying for that. I mean, here, this is of course built to a high tolerance as well, but something that is going to be, I would say, less subjective is going to be the objective fact that, yeah, handwork should cost more, right? So you're going to get actual value for that human interaction, because, yeah, these are going to be free-handed, hollow ground. This isn't, machined. I mean, there's going to be some level of machining, of course, but again, there's just that extra level of customization, and it just feels like just a lot more special, right? So there's premium products, and then there's stuff that kind of blends into luxury, right? And just because something's expensive doesn't necessarily mean that it's luxury, right? And I feel like this really crosses into that. This is definitely beyond a premium product. This is a luxury product. It's doing things you don't need it to do, and really you kind of have to be a connoisseur to truly appreciate. Actually, let me give the blade a quick little wipe, just because it's that nice, and I just want to make sure that it's presenting on camera as nice as it could. All right. So bottom line for me, guys, is, many collectors have compared the iMamba to the Sebenza, and rightfully so. Both are classic folders that are built to an heirloom level of fit and finish. Again, heirloom, that's more than a lifetime. This is multiple lifetimes type of product here, guys. I would say, yeah, it's worthy of that luxury classification, that heirloom quality. But I think where the iMamba really excels is its real openness to adapt modern niceties, such as, milled pocket clip, and then choices, right, for the pivot. You could get it in either, with a traditional, highly polished phosphor bronze washer, or you can get it with ceramic bearings. You can also choose the pivot, not just the, I would say, I just said the pivot, but you can also choose the deployment methods, right? You can have a traditional flipper, or you can have it without the flipper. So depending on where you're at, one of the nice things about not having a flipper is that, yeah, you could say it's a two-hand open type of knife. So then you're kind of getting around some of those legalese and legalities there, depending on where you're at. So this thing is just gorgeous, guys, and I'm so excited to share it with you. It's just next level. So big shout out to Arno Bernard for working with me on this one, sending this piece in for me to share with you guys, because it is absolutely epic in every way. So let me know what you all think down in the comments below. If you like the video, please hit like, and if you haven't already, please subscribe for more content just like this. Thanks, guys.